these groups taking 100,000 square feet, 50,000 square feet. Candidly, that just wasn't happening, 5+ years ago.
If you zoom out and go to 5, 7, 10-year historical average, we're right on track with what was happening pre-COVID.
Suburban office, I think like Doral, Coral Gables, I guess Coconut Grove is suburban. How are those markets performing?
My name is Omar Morales. I'm a commercial real estate broker that's closed over $3 billion worth of deals in South Florida. This gives me access to some of the most prolific real estate deal makers in not only South Florida, but also the country. My goal with the Real Estate Deal Makers podcast is to keep the conversations timely and current so you have a better understanding of where the market is today, and more importantly, where the leaders of this industry think it might be tomorrow. So let's dive into today's conversation. Randy Carballo and Cam Tallon are one of the most prolific office leasing brokers in the state of Florida. Their focus is leasing office space across the Miami area. Most recently, they were hired by the great Stephen Ross of the related companies in New York to lease the largest office development in the history of Florida. That's the 1.5 million square foot One Brickell City Center. Today, they actually lease the largest office building that exists in Florida, which is a Southeast Financial Center in downtown Miami. They cover about a 5.5 million square foot office portfolio in Miami. In this conversation, we talk about the career path and pros and cons of being an office leasing broker, the pre-COVID and post-COVID office trends in Miami and where they're headed. And more specifically, we compare and contrast the pros and cons of offices in different neighborhoods like Brickell, Coconut Grove, downtown Miami, and Coral Gables. Let's dive into today's conversation.
These big hotshot brokers are nervous as hell to have this conversation right now, which I love. So just the best way to just, for me, give them credibility is they are currently leasing the largest project and office project in South Florida history. This is Randy Carballo and Cam Tallon. And they got hired by Stephen Ross and the related companies team, which is, I think you can't have there's a lot of big clients out there, but that's probably one of the biggest fish. I've known him for a long time, so super happy to have this conversation and glad you guys are making the time. I think where I'd like to start, I guess, is give an overview of the size, the portfolio size, what you guys are sort of doing high level. And then I want to jump into brokeraging and why we're all in that business.
Lead us off, yeah.
So Ray and I both been in the business for about 10 years now. Both started on the tenant rep side. And worked at JLL together for a number of years. We split for a couple of years, which is sad, and finally had an opportunity to rejoin forces about 1.5 years ago back at CBRE.
And when you say tenant rep, explain tenant rep versus, I guess, landlord rep.
So both of us started in the career representing only the tenant side of the business, so occupiers of space. And about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, had a transition where I moved from the tenant rep side to focusing on the landlord agency side. So now representing the owners of buildings and the landlords. Randy, about 1 year or so later at Blanca, made a transition as well. And so we, after competing
So you started in the tenant rep also, side?
Yeah.
Is the landlord side better? It's if you can choose, you should be on this side of the equation?
Tenant reps get paid double. The thought process is the landlord side is almost I don't want to say an annuity business, but you're building some sort of portfolio that you can forecast somewhat. On the tenant rep side, in some markets with headquarters, you can do that. I tried to recreate that here and failed miserably. And that's kind of what actually pushed me over to the landlord side.
And typically people do one or the other, or specialize in.
But it's interesting. And most, New York, almost everybody does two sides. Okay. So a lot of the big players represent all the big landlords and all the big banks, tech companies, and all that.
Is it concentrated? My world in the multifamily sales is pretty concentrated. There's five shops that do what I do at the level that I do it at. In office leasing, when you're talking about these big buildings, big leases, it's you're going to choose one of these 3-5 brokers.
Yeah, I personally think we compete with 1 or 2 teams for the real sexy product, and then there's other capable teams in this market. I say that with all due respect.
Yeah, we are the most capable team.
Yeah. But I think for the true high end stuff, we're competing with 1 or 2 teams maybe. And there's probably 6 teams, different shops that to do what we do.
Yeah, so the landlord versus tenant rep sort of discussion is like it's higher probability business to have like, this is the building that I'm leasing, there's going to be leases turning and I'm going to be making money, hopefully, in perpetuity with this owner.
Somewhat, yeah. It's just on the tenant side, you are, there's you're adding value by, an ownership group is going to buy a building. And they need to fill it and increase rents, right? And so on the tenant sides get compensated because they bring tenants that can pay those rents. What we do is represent the owners that, in filling their buildings at premium rents to increase NOI and hopefully sell and make them a ton of money.
So did you guys, and I have to ask, right? For me, getting into the business of brokeraging, like I started in the real estate private equity space as a principal. And I just remember being in college and thinking like, the principal side, hedge funds, real estate, private equity are sexy. And like, that's where I want to be, like make big money, do the sexy stuff. And it wasn't until I was in the business that I started meeting brokers that were actually brokeraging, for me personally, these $100 million deals. I'm like, wait, these guys know what they're talking about. They're not the stereotypical broker. And it's lucrative and it's fun. I'm curious how were you guys like, I'm gonna be a broker, for sure? Or was there an evolution like it was for me?
Definitely went through undergrad with the expectation of wanting to be investment banking, private equity, more finance based. Watched my roommate graduate a year before me, go to IB up in New York, called me like 3 months. I was like, dude, this is not the business.
This is not it.
Money's amazing, but you're watching all these guys who are 40, 50 years old and the managing partners, and they're still in the office till 2 a.m. and life's miserable. And
there's no exit.
You warned me, go a different route. And so after spending a couple of years with that being the focus, I got fortunate and met some of the partners from our firm at Cressa and had an opportunity to come down here and work for them and kind of fell into brokerage a little bit. I always had interest in the commercial real estate space, past like family and friend, parents and friends, etc. Really interested me, but I never really thought about brokerage until met a couple guys and had an opportunity to move down.
So you graduated, did you start on the principal side at all? You graduated in brokerage?
Straight into brokerage on the tenant side.
Office. And did you fall into office or was there some sort of decision? Because I fell into multi. Like really, everyone was buying multi and a shop hired me that needed help buying multi. And then that's why I'm in multi.
Yeah.
You fell into office. And then for you, did you fall into office or?
Yeah, I thought I grew up poor, so I wanted to like maybe go to law school, make $100,000, and like that was it. Like that was going to be on top. And I fell into real estate through an internship, and it was a tenant rep office shop. And we did a little bit of industrial and flex deals and things like that in Orlando. And it was all a great experience, but ultimately, office is just what I gravitated towards.
Can't really come out of college. I don't think I could have told you the difference between office and retail and industrial. And now my whole life, all I care about is office space. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's like everything you talk about.
It is unbelievable.
I mean, you guys walked into my office and were like, this is great, 7,000 square foot. You're like sizing everything out. Like, oh,
pushing these workstations out. My goodness.
Yeah, exactly. No, so for me, it's been funny. It's now being on the brokeraging side of the equation. I guess something I do want to touch on, because I do want to talk office sort of market, but something I do want to touch on is like, I obviously am a humble, sort of modest person, like, but I do want to like say like we're doing relatively well for our age and in the market. And I'm just curious, you guys, what you think, why you're in the positions that you're in, why you're doing business with someone like Stephen Ross and other big clients, at the age, you guys call it like early 30s, I would say, me as well. There's thousands of brokers, right? What do you guys think? Be as cocky. I'm just curious. What do you guys think like other people don't do or don't do as much as you do?
Yeah, I'll talk about Cam actually. So, and a little bit on both of us, but Cam grew up kind of under a few really good brokers and was almost forced to be extremely technical and kind of know the ins and outs of a deal, what the impact of a lease meant to tenants. And I think the guys who mentored you did a really good job of like elevating, putting you in a good position to, show that knowledge at an early age, which ultimately leads to, I think now, Cam is extremely dangerous through all sorts of, all parts of the process from, pushing for certain things on a lease, talking a landlord through why things matter, why things don't, and then also being able to sell to tenants, hey, this is why we need this, or this is why we can't get this, but we can do this instead, and knowing how that impacts a landlord. And ultimately, I think being dangerous on that technical side is something that a lot of folks don't have, because the reality is if you can go slam a 10,000 square foot deal and get it through and go make 200 grand, you're going to go do that.
Yeah.
And so fortunately, I think both of us had the opportunity to kind of start on that side. Cam's also extremely likable. So that helps.
Yeah, so I know Randy more than I know Cam. And little I know Cam, I'm like, I love this guy. And as much as I know Randy, I'm like, Randy, everyone loves Randy. Like it's I gravitate towards him, and I feel the same about you. So
everybody loves Cam.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
I'm the asshole in the relationship.
Really? So I actually wanted to bring this up. As partners, I think brokeraging is one where if I look at the most successful brokers in the multifamily space, they have great partnerships. And that doesn't mean that there aren't hard conversations and tough conversations that you have to have. But I'm curious, I guess, two things. I guess primarily what I'm curious about is, how is your dynamic? Do you guys think you're like two peas in a pod, same type of person, same strengths, or like yin and yang, this guy's more technical, this guy's, how is that interplay?
I think it's a good question, because we joke about it all the time, where I feel like we have a lot of similarities. I think the way we process and review business is similar. And I think one thing I was going to say at this point earlier is like, what's been cool about our partnership, and obviously we have another partner, we have a grander team, but what's cool is like at a young age, we've been able to join forces and candidly challenge each other, I think, really well, and push each other. And I think what's great is, when you're looking at some of these deals we're working on, or assets or things we're pursuing, it's the ability, I think, to kind of push each other and, on the strategy side, and how do we take something deeper, and not just, let's just put a beautiful presentation together, but how do we really dive deep here that we know our competition probably isn't doing? And it's really the time and effort. And I think that's been, really in the year and a half we've been together, there's a lot of, I think, conversations where we disagree about things, but I think it ultimately pushes us to kind of think and look at things on a different perspective. And so, I think that's really been beneficial for us so far. Definitely a lot of times where, I'm a very optimistic guy, and everything to me is all rosy all the time, and this guy can be more pessimistic on everything. So,
more realistic, I like to say, not pessimistic.
Yeah, I think we'd be in the middle on the realistic. I think
that's so funny. Not knowing Cam as much, I'd be like, Randy's the most likable, the most optimistic, and you're like, no, dude, you need to.
If we need to know about Cam, you call him, please.
I have that calls with you where you're like, everything's fine, and I'm like, I know, Randy, but then the next day you're like, things are not that bad. And I'm like, no, they're not.
Every time someone asks us like about a building, like, oh, what do you guys think rates are? I'm like, yeah, let Cam answer first. And then I'll let you down easy.
So there's more optimism, more, call it realism in this. What other interplay as it relates to like maybe character and stuff? Are you guys, like I'll give you an example. I have two partners, Jared and Roberto, right? Jared is like the most likable, social, everyone talks to him and you can talk to him for hours and you're just like instantly his best friend. Mm-hmm. Roberto is like the more technical of us three, and he's like in the weeds talking like details, right? Obviously Jared can do that too, but he shines in social, Roberto shines in technical, and I'm sort of like a mix in between. How would you guys think about like those pros and cons, or just like character sort of attributes between you guys? Tough question.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think we're generally pretty similar, particularly on like the way we approach business, if you will. I think I get fired up about like the pursuit, if you will.
Oh, that's a good one.
And Cam loves to like latch on and like
long-term relationship,
like ride the deal home and like you feel good call.
You like the chase. You're like, go this one, we're going. And then you're like really harvesting, executing. I'm not saying you're not both doing both things, but like you're like shiny, go.
But I know Cam does a better job of like, relationship management, like making people kind of feel good once they're engaged. Right. And I'm kind of like on the front end, I'm like a fire first date.
I'm great.
That's gonna be the intro. I'm a fire first date. Yeah, Cam is married 30 years.
Yeah, very accurate.
That is good.
Cam's proposing third date. They're always saying yes.
Yeah. Randy's off to the next fire first date. 100%. Actually, recently got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now I'm super curious market-wise, right? We've seen a lot happen in just South Florida. It's crazy. For me, I mean, us three, we've always sort of been bullish in the market. We're just like, this is the best place just as it relates to quality of life and everything. And COVID just supercharged some trends that none of us could have sort of predicted. And we're happy to be riding this wave. I'm curious. So as it relates to where we were 2019, call it, and where we are, what we saw through COVID, I mean, just give us some color as to the market and what you guys experienced, right? Through that working, because you were working 2019, you're working 2021, how that was.
Look, candidly, pre-COVID, again, I just moved to the agency side and we were just starting to build a portfolio. And candidly, it felt like things were starting to pick up and the market was tracking in a good direction. Obviously, COVID hits 2020, things kind of come to a complete halt and kind of a scary time. And obviously, hindsight now, we couldn't be more thankful that we live here in Miami versus some other markets because we really benefited from that. And, obviously, we've been very fortunate that, post-COVID, the migration out of South Florida has really, driven a lot of new demand down here. The market today looks entirely different than it looked pre-COVID. In terms of the type of tenants moving down here, the headline names like the Citadels and Kirkland Ellis and Tomo Bravos of the world who, pre-COVID, we didn't have a lot of those users. And if we did, they had a 5,000 square foot presence down here or less. And these groups taking 100,000 square feet, 50,000 square feet. Candidly, that just wasn't happening, 5+ years ago. And so obviously we're in a unique time period right now where things have kind of slowed down just based on the macroeconomic climate and also just like how hot it was 2021, 2022. Because in multifamily, it's the same. I'm like, guys, yes, it's not the heydays that we saw 18 months ago, but like we are still by far exceeding all expectations that we could see. And like if the whole world is sort of slowing down, call it 15%, and we're down 5%, like that's a win. Yeah. Right. And for me personally, I feel like when I go to New York, Chicago, or when I talk to my friends over there, they're still like, dude, long term, I absolutely want to be in Miami. Or that's the value proposition is too good. Yeah. So I'm curious. Go back to my optimistic self. If you're looking like a scale of 1 to 10, kind of feels like pre-COVID we were at a 5. Last year we were almost at 12.
I was about to say.
Right now it kind of feels like we're not far off from that 5. It feels like we're kind of, as much as right now feels incredibly slow, just because compared to last year, the percentage is off a lot. It still feels like really compared to pre-COVID, we're not that far apart from typical activity.
Yeah, we're right on track to, if you zoom out and go to 5, 7, 10-year historical average, we're right on track with what was happening pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So that generally feels good. And from like a volume perspective, rates are so much higher throughout the market that, there's a lot more meaningful business in South Florida currently. Like this building, for example, biggest tenants were, Hunt and Williams, who, when they moved into the market, bought really acquired small firms and a bunch of local attorneys. All the new law firms that have come in, what they did was bring attorneys from other markets, from Chicago, from New York, from California, who wanted to be here already, and then select a couple, big name players from existing markets. And so that's kind of the difference, if you will. Before it was, okay, we want to flag in Miami, grow locally, et cetera. There's so many folks that are moving here now that, the trajectory, I can be optimistic about this. Like we are very much in early innings in Miami and, it's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I believe this a lot, where it's like the seeds that were laid in 2021, 2022 are like growing. I mean, Ken Griffin literally bought the lot right here off this window, and like it's still just a lot, right? In 2027, 2030, whatever it is, that's going to be a ridiculously huge building, along with One Brickell City Center with Stephen Ross, and like that's all going to bring money and tenants and employees. And like I've seen it in the fabric of Brickell, like the people I'm meeting. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, you do what? I'm like, that's amazing. In Miami in 2019, I did not, you would not be here, sir. They're like, or ma'am, they're like, yeah, I was in Boston. Yeah, I was in New York. I was in San Fran. And I'm like, that makes total sense.
Right.
It's funny what you said about the volume, because multifamily is exactly the same. We had $3 to $4 billion in sales a year, 2012 to 2019. Saw 8 billion in 21, 13 billion in 22, and now we're on track for 3 to 4 billion. So it's like, yeah, time out. Compared to 13, 14, I'm like, this is the worst, right? But then I step back and I'm like, okay, that was supercharged. That was insane.
That can happen. All the time.
And yeah, but to your point, the seeds that were laid are sort of on, are for me going to be to a bigger boom, whether it's in 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is. So you guys are currently leasing the biggest office in South Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
Biggest office tower, existing office tower in the state.
In the state of Florida. Amazing. Okay, so you're leasing the biggest office tower in the state of Florida. How many square feet is it?
So that's Southeast Financial Center, which is about 1.25 million square feet.
Okay.
So 55 stories, and so that is sitting in downtown Miami. The biggest office building in the state of Florida right now.
And now what you're working on with One Brickell City Center, and obviously a whole lot of other clients, but One Brickell City Center is going to surpass that, I'm assuming?
One Brickell City Center is slated to be about 1.5 million square feet. So large floor plates from kind of 52,000 square feet on the podium floors, which is really unique. It's the largest floor plates really in Brickell, certainly I think in Miami-Dade. And then coming up to 32,000 square feet, more or less along the tower. So,
And that it's in Brickell, Southeast Financial Centers in downtown Miami.
Yep, exactly.
Let's talk about sort of market. Are you seeing different tenants go to different places? I'm curious, just generally your take on Brickell versus Wynwood versus Edgewater. Curious where you're at.
Every tenant has every building or submarket rather has their own makeup, if you will. Brickell is primarily legal and financial services, and then you have some professional services here. Then you also have a little bit of tech sprinkled around, like Meta has their offices here. Microsoft has their offices here. Yeah,
Has offices in Brickell?
701 Brickell.
What?
Come on, man.
I had no idea.
Dude, they got a
Zucky
whole cafe
Zucky's
there.
here? Amazing.
So they're down the street. FTX used to have an office in this building.
I never saw FTX employees. Yeah, they also used to have an arena
You won't
named
see
after them.
Yeah, I don't see them anymore. But you have a lot of that in Brickell, and then you also have a lot of like smaller regional financial services offices, just given the cachet that Brickell has in Latin America.
Right.
If you go to Wynwood, candidly, it's funny. If you were to, everybody who was underwriting deals in Wynwood to build office was like, this is going to be all tech, Meta's coming, Google's coming, we're going to creative users. And then PNC goes.
Yeah.
Or PwC, sorry.
Yeah.
How
many square feet did PwC do?
38,000 square feet,
Okay.
which is a big tenant in Miami.
Yeah, it's for Wynwood too. Like Wynwood's it wasn't a super established market.
Yeah. And then you have Schoenfeld Consulting in Camden, who has 40,000 square feet in that market also. You have all the co-working players, obviously, but like Slalom Consulting. So a lot of professional services consulting firms went to Wynwood really when there was a lot of uncertainty on whether employees would come back or not. And everybody wanted to be cool.
Yeah.
And Wynwood was that cool effect. And it also offered like a hybrid mobility workplace for their folks. Like PwC had 100,000 square feet across South Florida. They put Wynwood strategically in the middle of Miami. And they said, okay, we're going to drop a pin here. We're going to make an awesome office. And everybody's going to be able to touch down in this office when they have the opportunity to, or when they need to come in.
Better to go in, go out, ingress, egress. Because Brickell, the complaint I hear about Brickell is just like, if you live there and you work there, great.
Congestion.
In and out, it's just tough.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, just a question popped into my head. For Southeast Financial Center, it's 1.2 million square feet. Have you seen the makeup of the tenants switch since you started working on that building? Or is it sort of been the same?
It's always predominantly been, the professional service building, especially for law firms. So we've always had the most AM 100 law firms in that building. DLA Piper, Cushman O'Connor, Schutz.
Oh,
And
Schutz is it?
so a lot of the larger law firms in our market were in Southeast Financial Center. That's that trend has kind of continued where we've had King and Spalding come to the market, they're also in the building now. But we've also had, on the financial service side, historically Goldman Sachs, we've had Morgan Stanley. We now have Citadel in the building as their headquarter building.
Citadel's there right now.
Citadel is their headquarter into the building until their new building is developed. And so I wouldn't say that the makeup's necessarily changed, but what it's done is it's kind of almost further validated, like this is the building that, kind of you call it the gold standard really of the market for these super high-end firms that are concerned about client facing and want to have the best space in the market.
Yeah, and it validates, Southeast, if we talk about market dynamics, the downtown market has a significant amount of vacancy in comparison to Brickell, probably 3x the amount.
Mm-hmm.
Southeast has outperformed the downtown market significantly and performs similarly to the Brickell Class A product, so the high end stuff of Brickell. We've done deals at Southeast to comparable rents in this building or higher even, and so it just goes to show the flight to quality, if you will, where so many tenants like Citadel could have gone to pay cheap rents in any other of these buildings downtown. But they wanted to go to this kind of high quality product.
And we're seeing the same flight to quality in like the multifamily transaction world, right? And we keep hearing about it in the office world. Again, you go back to the flight to quality, and we hear about it in every asset class almost. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when I look online and I read news headlines and stuff like that, my thought is like suburban office, I keep Chicago and all these things. It's just like not where you want to be. It's struggling. Is it different in South Florida? There's obviously the flight to quality that you mentioned, but when we think about suburban office, I think like Doral, Coral Gables, I guess Coconut Grove is suburban. Mm-hmm. How are those markets performing? In office.
Miami's unique, right? We're 42, 43 million square feet market. That was 40 a couple years ago, and that's a couple blocks in Manhattan. And so
that's great.
That's including all Class A and Class B across the entire.
That is wild. So you're like, that's Hudson Yards.
We're geographically, this is a small town, generally, from the ocean to the Everglades and even north south, we're generally limited. And what that causes a lot of congestion, obviously, with more folks moving down here. So what we're seeing is Brickell and downtown will continue to have the allure for groups who want to really provide their employees with unbelievable access in an environment, in a live, work, play environment, 24-hour city. This is amazing. We walked from our office here. We crossed, easily $200 million in yachts. Walked through, got a great breeze. Everybody was beautiful.
Everyone is beautiful.
Yeah, this place doesn't suck. This is amazing,
The related company guys that I've met that have moved from New York down here, they're like, this is the best city ever.
Oh my goodness. I can't stop smiling.
Yeah. So what I learned from one of the related company guys was like, he's like, Brickell is actually the best live, work, play city I've ever been, because New York gets that cachet. But I don't know New York all that well. Like, I'm learning it obviously, but I think what he told me was like, people work in Midtown, but they live in Chelsea, and like they're actually not in the same place.
Yeah, and like, no offense to New York, but Midtown sucks.
That's what I said last time.
Midtown is brutal. Last time we were in Midtown, or up in New York, off to down, like I had to go get a charger. A huge rat runs by. There's trash everywhere. I'm like, get me out of here, man.
This blew my mind. There's
pizza slices aren't $1 anymore. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
There's $10 million townhomes in New York with piles of trash right outside. I'm like, are you kidding? For that money in Miami, there's dolphins playing in front of you. Like giving you a show.
And it blows my mind.
So for me, Brickell is just like, it's crazy, the live, work, play. I mean, we're here now. If you wanted to go grab dinner afterwards, we cross the street and there's Major Food Group.
Go to soccer real quick downstairs. 31st cross street for drinks. It's a room.
It is wild.
The offering that this place offers, and even if you look at rents, like I used to live across the street and pay like $1,000 a month, which is ridiculous.
Crazy.
And even if that's 5x now, it's still like, what can you get elsewhere?
The quality of life.
This is an unbelievable offering that we have here.
So you've got, again, going back to like suburban and different markets. So there are office owners, lease, tenants that are saying we want to offer the Brickell lifestyle to people, and then Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, Doral, it's a different offering, different makeup.
It's just folks deciding that they want to be more local, and maybe kind of smaller regional offices, if you will, and having the access to executive housing has been really what's driving those markets. Coconut Grove is probably the highest performing market in Miami, in my opinion.
Really?
Yep.
Because of you said executive housing? Is it?
Yeah.
Basically, it's like a rich,
limited supply, and you're right in the heart of where the demand is and where all the high-end housing is between Grove, Pinecrest, and Gables. Your access there, not having to deal with doing the CBD, and some of the decision makers simply, candidly, a lot of their kids go to school right there in Coconut Grove. So for them to pass by those buildings and be able to say, I can just drop my kid off and walk to the office, it's driven a lot of those decisions.
Coconut Grove is, I think, it has to be one of the few neighborhoods in the country where you can, walk to drop your kid off at one of the best middle school, elementary school, or high schools in the state. Yeah. Walk to a Michelin star restaurant, walk to a movie, walk to the gym, kind of all in that same vicinity.
But the office market has outperformed in Coral Gables, which for context is like right there.
The Grove market,
the Grove is also
900,000 square feet. So there
and
hasn't been a
Gables
lot of transactions.
Roughly,
I think it was like 4 million.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So like 4x.
But even the Gables market, obviously a lot of executives live in the Gables. And so as the Gables market initially, this is like my thesis. I don't have real data to prove this, but
you just feel it.
It makes sense at least. Like when folks move down here, it's like, okay, let me get a condo in Brickell, or let me get something downtown. That's easy.
South
Check
Beach.
the box. Yeah, totally. And then you're like, all right, I want to be an adult.
Maybe some people don't reach that phase in Miami.
Definitely. A lot of those. Let me get a backyard. Let me put my kids in school, figure out where we're going. And then once they settle down, they're like, okay, this makes sense. Let's go here. And now there's significant spread between what rents are in Brickell, downtown, and then Coral Gables. Mm-hmm. And so folks are realizing, maybe I'd love to keep my expenses where they were as my lease rolls. And so we'll relocate to the Gables.
So there's a big spread as it relates to like, hey, if you want to be in Brickell, I'm guessing like it's going to be more expensive than if you want to be in South Beach, or you're saying from a rental perspective, like as a resident?
No, from an office lease perspective.
There's big spreads between what you need to pay to be in Brickell versus what you need to pay to be in the Grove and Coral Gables.
Yeah, like top tier product, I think is just the scale. Your Brickell here, your kind of the beach here, the Grove here, downtown Coral Gables.
Got it.
And I mean, historically, like if you look at like the spread between Brickell and Gables, there's probably like a 20% spread. Now, because of the run up in Brickell and the demand that's been here and the rate increase, you're probably looking at 70% to 100% increase, a delta between the two. So it's a
Brickell, Coral Gables, 20% spread. Now you're saying it's like
probably closer to like 70 to 100%.
Oh, wow.
Spread. Yeah.
So how do you still say Coral Gables is the market that's most outperformed? Because Coral Gables, like if Brickell's grown so much in terms of rent.
Did I say that?
Yeah, I thought like you were saying Coral Gables is the most outperforming market in like office outperforming market.
No, I think the Grove is the highest performing. Like if you look at highest performance, like lowest vacancy and highest rents achieving, if you will. And so Grove has like 3% vacancy on the Class A front, and I think they're high.
So like strongest markets as a resident.
Totally. But the Grove is, in the grand scheme of things, not super relevant. It's 900-ish thousand square feet. So a lot of things aren't transacting there. But if there was more space there, I think it would be leased.
And Coconut Grove, just from my understanding, it's like density is like you're not going super high from office, from multi, so it's like the supply story is phenomenal.
Yep.
And then how do you guys, I guess, think about, and I'm assuming you will have to be the most biased guys to answer this question, but how do you guys think about hybrid work, remote work? Everybody, I'm assuming, asks you, your office leasing brokers, what's your spiel? Like, what's your thought on it? Do we talk with the optimistic guy?
No, it's honestly.
People are back in the office. Everyone needs an office. No, I mean, look, it's Miami's historically, the reputation Miami's always had is, we're a live workplace city, right? And we've never really had the same kind of, I think, work culture that like in New York or Chicago, et cetera's had. So pre-COVID, people are probably going in 4 days a week to the office, Fridays. Yeah, depends where you're at. I think where we're at now, it feels like we're, unfortunately, we don't have the data that's tracked like other big cities. Don't have exact occupancy numbers in all these big buildings. But the feel of it is that we are back to probably similar type occupancy as we were pre-COVID. The difference is, I think, the way that companies are working today and implementing more of these hybrid type work structures and policies. So like maybe the employees are there 3 days a week, but the beauty is like everybody has I think had a long enough time period to work at home, realize this was great, but in the day, like I need to be around my colleagues, I need to be at the office. And so maybe it's not 5 days a week, but to be there in the office 2-3 days a week, and you need a desk, and you need to be able to have room to collaborate with your teams and your partners, et cetera.
This is not just a plug because you guys are office leasing brokers, and I love you guys, but like my office is full, quite literally. And Brickell's policy is hybrid. You can not show up to the office a day a week. We don't care. And they actually tell like the senior sort of managing directors, like, hey, do not force your team to be there, right? It's completely optional. And I promise you, like David, who we just hired, is like first year analyst, is here like 6 to 8, and he's here early.
Well, and David better be, because David doesn't know shit, and he needs to fucking learn from you guys.
Actually,
so like if David wants to progress in his career, he better be here till now. Like David should be listening to this shit.
He will. I know. He'll take notes and share it around. But what's funny is that type of energy, what have you, brings other people into the office, right? So now our teammates that maybe were flirting a little more with home, they're like, oh, people are, it's competitive, and now people are here and they're showing up.
Because think about opportunities.
Something that both of you guys mentioned when I asked, I like talking numbers. Like you guys have made over $500,000 in a single year, and like are very successful for, call it, early 30-year-olds, right? So for me, when I asked you, why are you in the position you're in? What do you think it is? The answer was mentorship, right? The answer was like, I grew up with people in the business. I was very lucky to learn from them. I know you've had great mentors and people in your life that like have sort of shown you the way. I'm the same exact way. If I think about Mitch Simberg, Scott Wadler, Jared Turkel, and my partners, it's like, I am like standing in the shoulders of giants, right? And if I was like, instead in pajamas at home, just doing what they told me to do, but not learning through osmosis and lunch meetings and calls and popping into the office, like you're gonna fall behind.
Totally.
So for me, I actually think it's an opportunity. I'm like, I wish nobody was showing up to the office. That'd be the only game in town, like trying to run. And for me, I'm curious, and I know you guys probably don't have data on this, but I think the remote and hybrid work like allows people to not have to be in New York to make a living and make a name for themselves.
For sure.
And for me, that's bullish South Florida, because people like want to be in South Florida. You mentioned this. You had your IB friend call you, doing investment banking in New York. Like, dude, this is not it. So for me, and I remember I almost went to New York to do investment banking, and I was just like, man, I really don't want to leave for 3 to 6 years, not have, I don't want to say fun, because I'm a hard worker, we all are, but like, I don't want to leave to come back. I don't want to feel forced to do that. And fortunately, like Miami took off. But for me, it's like this hybrid remote work, you can be where you want to be, is so bullish South Florida because people want to be here.
Totally. And for employers, they can now recruit from a bigger pool, which is great, and hopefully provide their employees with a flexible solution where they can still come to an office and learn and get from osmosis, but be able to get the best talent pool, across the country, wherever that is.
Right.
People have to write headlines and the whole thing. I think the hybrid work was happening for a long time before the pandemic. The issue is that there was like the old guy in the office who wanted to do it his way.
I have to be there.
And always made a stink about every time HR or the CFO or the real estate team would say, hey, it'd be great if our team was hybrid because we could shrink our workplace by 20% and reduce our costs. And he was like, no, everybody needs to be in the office, 7 to 7, and that's my way. Then COVID came, and that old guy was like the first guy that would die. And he's like, yep, everybody.
Or the first guy out of the office. He's like, this sucks. You know?
Everybody work from home.
Yeah.
And so all that did was kind of, it just accelerated the trend that was happening before, but was just met with a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to continue to see that. What I think employers need to be, being able to work from home. Like, we don't have kids, but like the thought process of, and we're not like the relevant crowd, because if I want to go home one day, like we can do that, fortunately. But the relevant crowd of, I don't want to be late for my kid's soccer game, or I want to be able to pick up my kid from school if they're sick, or whatever the situation is that life brings you. Having that flexibility to work from home is huge. And all it's going to do, if companies are offering it, is, create less attrition and keep people loyal to your company. But with that being said, I think it's benefited us because now people just need to build really dynamic workplaces that their employees want to be in, to be able to now also reduce attrition, but recruit and retain the best talent. So overall, that might be maybe really optimistic. I was
like, this is the pessimistic guy. I love this. Now you got to top that.
I'm grown on him.
Now Cam's got a good cop, better cop.
No, overall, I think it's going to be a good thing for us. And if you're reducing kind of the offices that you have by 10-15%, you're expanding your kitchenettes and your break rooms and your breakout areas. And
how I think about it too is like in multifamily, I like talking about like capital flows. Mm-hmm. If there's just money rushing to multi because it's leaving retail for whatever reason, it's like it's gonna lift all boats. And for me, from an office perspective, people are voting with their feet from New York and Chicago, Ken Griffin, Stephen Ross, and they're coming to Miami, right? So you guys are leasing space in like where people want to be. And
we just need money to be flowing. Right now, that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's like, okay, good. People want to be down there. People are going to work down there. So it's like, for me, you put me in an office staring at a screen for 14, 16 hours, like 50, 60% of that is not productive because I'm like, my mind is being melted, right? But now I wake up, I'm early to the office, I crank my things, then I go have a breakfast, and then I come back and like going back to it being dynamic, I work more productively. Going back to attrition, I had never thought about it as it relates to attrition. 100%. I'm like, dude, I could be doing this for a very long time. I'm like, this is great, right?
I feel like you're up, you're 7 o'clock paddle, then you're going home to have breakfast, then you're in the office.
6 a.m.
6 a.m. Sorry, 6
a.m.
tennis.
I feel like people know my schedule because of the post.
I got invited to tennis one time, never again.
He was too good. That I was like, I'm not willing to continue being embarrassed by Randy.
He like picked me up too. He's like, I'm like, yeah, dude, first time. And he's like, all right, cool, yeah, let's see.
You didn't have to tell me it was the first time. Yeah, exactly. So, no, I actually think, I guess, like for me, big picture, it's like, I think all the trends that we've saw and got accelerated through COVID have laid the seeds for like such a higher ceiling. Obviously, capital market environment, it is what it is. And for multifamily, sales debt, it's awful. And for me, the ceiling is just going to be so much higher. And what I think is interesting is the floor is also so much higher, right? Because of the people that are here. And for us, like we didn't have Stephen Ross, Lefrak, these major deep pockets be here. Miami was like international money leads. And like, right? So for me, I'm super bullish long term. And also, I guess I want to start wrapping up the conversation and sort of take it back to brokeraging, right? So for you guys, it's, I guess, give me your, like, how do you think about brokeraging long term? And are you in the same mindset as I am, where I'm like, this is fun. Like, I don't know if I necessarily see this as work.
For me, at the end of the day, we're not saving lives. We are.
You always tell me that.
This isn't that serious in the grand scheme of things. And we take it very seriously, and we're honored and extremely fortunate for the trust that's bestowed on us to lease and handle these multi-million-dollar assets and investments that, were between the BCC guys or Miami Station or the Link project or, any of the...
Oh, you guys are doing Miami Station?
Yes. Any of the now called Hub Miami.
Hub
But
Miami.
any of the new construction stuff that goes on, I mean, the thought to get that across the finish line takes so much, not blood, but like sweat and probably some analyst tears. It's brutal. And even on the acquisition side, particularly now, like all that's really difficult. And so we don't take any of that lightly. And we're extremely fortunate for the clients that we have. But the reality is, at the end of the day, this isn't rocket science. We're transacting and, we're adding value through that way. And I think we're really good at it. But the reason I love what I do is the flexibility that it offers. We're extremely fortunate to make more money than I ever imagined. But what that brings me is the flexibility to go travel and go have unbelievable experiences and kind of have the flexibility to do what I want to do, with my family and my friends and spend time as I'd like to spend it. Sometimes too many leasing calls, but
I've seen you on leasing calls in like the Rocky Mountains, like all over the world. Yeah. So you're still cranking.
But all in all, that's why I love brokerage. And like we've talked about, like I've had thoughts like I want to be on the GP side.
It's cool,
like
it's sexy.
that. Like absolutely not. Man.
I always tell them like, you guys are too smart for me. I'm just gonna keep brokeraging on this side.
Absolutely not. Like the whole, I think people count on us obviously, and we perform and do everything we can to perform, but the thought process of being on the GP side
So
and that
and
much
the skill
pressure
set,
on
the
you,
quality,
totally,
is completely different.
yeah,
Something that I've noticed too from what you said is like your whole thing of like the flexibility of being with family if I want to, friends, and like being able to manage that. I actually think because of COVID, people are looking at their lives holistically that way. Mm-hmm. And those exact same desires are pro South Florida, are pro Miami, because they're like, I could make money in Miami. I could be in the sun in Miami. I could like have fun in Miami. So for me, it's like, again, yes, is the capital market environment tough right now? 1,000%. But if I drop a pin anywhere, I like to think about it this way. If I drop a pin anywhere in the world, I would pick the United States personally. If I look at the United States.
Yeah. And I don't say that like nationalistically or whatever else, but like, we're both immigrants here. We are unbelievably fortunate to be here and like have the opportunities that we have. Like, there's a bunch of shit that's fucked up here, but unbelievable.
It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but on a relative basis.
On a relative basis, I mean,
I'm like, why are you complaining?
Spin the glove, drop a pen, and like go hang out over there and try to hang out on a Saturday at a nice restaurant. Get out of here.
It's impossible.
Like,
so again, it's like the market's doing what the market does, but I look at the world. I like United States. I like United States. I look at Southeast regions. Then I look at Florida and Texas, what a lot of people sort of gravitate to for tax reasons and stuff like that. Let's say you end up with Florida. I'm like South Florida. And then South Florida, I'm like Miami. Yeah. So when people give me credit professionally, and I'm sure you guys as well, being as successful as you are at your age, I'm like, guys, I am literally like in the 0.01% of land mass where makes this all possible.
Yeah.
From Orlando, Florida. So I can tell you now, Miami, Florida, not going anywhere. It's amazing here. So, no, just the offering's incredible. So, and what I would say is to piggyback on what Ray is saying about like his kind of reason that he loves being a brokerage. I mean, one thing, love the flexibility, love the travel, love the compensation. It's great as well. But I think something that is cool about our market here in Miami is, the people you get to work with, not just on, in the brokerage side, but also on the ownership side too. We have there's a lot of young guys who are in our business, and in the day, it's funny that, we spend more time with him than my wife, and good or bad. And what's cool is the fact that a lot of these guys are, become close, some of our closest friends, right? So it is neat to be able to pick up the phone and like, we're not even the same business, necessarily the same, line of business, but pick up the phone and we can, once every 2 weeks, it's like we're talking about what's going on in the markmarketplace, how can we refer clients, how can we help each other.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes across, all sectors of real estate. Like I said, on Saturdays when we're having dinner with like other couples, half the time, more than, 75% of the table is real estate. Whether my wife hates it, but it's the truth. We had dinner with 5 couples the other night, and literally everyone at that table except for one couple was in real estate.
Yeah.
And so it's just cool that like it's not, we spend so much time with our colleagues, and it's to have some good people that we get to work with is great. Certainly helps.
No, I think having the ability to get to know you guys over the years that I have, I think I probably met you in like John Rosen's like Future of Real Estate thing, and I was just like, this guy, again, charismatic, fun, cool, smart. And for me,
Sold the dream.
that was the first date. And for me, just seeing people like Jordan Bodegas at related companies, like guys like him, I'm like, Jordan's amazing. I love that guy. And that guy wouldn't have been here 5 years ago, right? Like he's too talented and fun and cool. Like, he'd be in New York. He'd be somewhere else, which I think he was, right?
We have a big golf match with Jordan coming up.
Ooh, big golf. I think he's a good golfer. He looks like a
take
big
us
golfer.
down. There's no chance.
Jordan and Greg. Yeah, so big.
Is it like 2-on-2? Are you adding up the scores?
We'll
Jordan watching.
get that live.
They
for
were
the podcast.
they were practicing their putting in the office over there. Guys, I can't thank you enough for making the time. I know you guys are super, super busy. I love the fact that you're a little nervous coming into it. I'm definitely going to put that in there. But Randy and Cam, I appreciate you both, and it's going to be fun to continue growing in this market and this industry.
Thank you for having us, my man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, sir.
Of course.